Hello and welcome back to Her Revenge Arc. My name is Alara, and tonight I want to share a story with you. It's a story about beginnings and endings, about how the most painful words can sometimes become the foundation for the most beautiful transformations. It's a story about a woman who was told she was ruined, only to rebuild herself into something indestructible, in the very place her destruction began. So find a comfortable spot, dim the lights and listen closely. Because this story is for anyone who has ever been made to feel small, and for the quiet, unyielding strength that waits within us all. The first time I held my daughter Lily, the world dissolved into a soft focused blur of white hospital sheets and the low rhythmic beep of a heart monitor. The universe, which had for 9 months been a tumultuous and expansive galaxy within me, had now contracted to this single tiny, perfect being in my arms. She was all wrinkled skin, a dusting of dark hair, and the faint sweet scent of newness. In that moment I was not just Alara. I was a mother. My body, exhausted and torn and stitched, felt less like my own and more like a vessel, a ship that had just completed a perilous, magnificent voyage and now sat gratefully in the harbor. I had never felt more powerful or more vulnerable in my entire life. Mark, my husband, stood by the window, his back to me. The afternoon sun cast a long shadow that stretched across the sterile linoleum floor, almost touching the foot of my bed. He had been quiet ever since the final push, a tense, coiled silence that felt starkly out of place amidst the quiet miracle of it all. I thought perhaps he was overwhelmed, lost in the gravity of becoming a father. "Mark," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "Come and see her. She's perfect." He turned slowly. His face, usually so open and boyish, was a mask of something I couldn't quite decipher. It wasn't awe. It wasn't joy. It was appraisal. His eyes didn't go to the baby in my arms, not at first. They scanned me from my tired, puffy face, down to the lump of the hospital blanket over my stomach, which was no longer taut with life but soft and empty. He lingered there, his brow furrowed in a way that made a cold knot form in my gut. A knot that had nothing to do with postpartum cramps. "Mark," I prompted again, a tremor in my voice. He finally looked at Lily, a cursory glance before his eyes snapped back to me. And then he said the words that would become the anthem of my undoing, and later, the catalyst for my rebirth. He took a small step back, as if creating a safe distance from a scene of an accident. "I'm glad she's healthy, Alara. I really am." He paused, and the air in the room grew thick and heavy, charged with an unspoken cruelty. "But God, look at you. You look horrible. Horrible." The word didn't just hang in the air. It seeped into the very fabric of the room. It clung to the pristine white curtains, tainted the clean smell of antiseptic, and echoed in the gentle beeping of the monitor. It was a clinical, detached assessment, delivered with the casual brutality of a man swatting a fly. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. That somehow made it worse. It was a simple statement of fact, his fact. I looked down at myself, at the 4 tubes still taped to my hand, the sweat-dampened hair stuck to my forehead, the unfamiliar landscape of my own body. I had just brought a life into this world. I had endured 27 hours of labor, of pain that felt primal and soul-splitting. I had become a creator, a force of nature. And all he saw was something horrible. I had no reply. What could I say? My throat closed up, and a profound, bone-deep exhaustion settled over me, heavier than any physical fatigue. I simply pulled the blanket tighter around my daughter and turned my face away from him, focusing on the tiny, rhythmic rise and fall of her chest. In the periphery, I saw him check his watch, run a hand through his perfectly styled hair, and walk out of the room, leaving the echo of his disgust behind. In that moment, holding my beautiful, perfect daughter, I had never felt more alone. The days that followed were a blur of sleeplessness and a strange, hollow grief. Mark was a ghost in our home. He'd leave early for work and come back late, the scent of something artificial and sterile clinging to him, the clean, impersonal smell of a gym. He said he needed to clear his head, to get back into a routine. He said the crying baby and the state of the house were stressing him out. The state of the house was the state of me. A chaotic, beautiful, overwhelming mess. There were diapers and baby wipes on the coffee table, half-empty mugs of cold tea on the counter, and piles of tiny laundry waiting to be folded. And there was me in my sweatpants and stained t-shirts, my hair in a perpetual messy bun, my eyes shadowed with fatigue. I was navigating a new world, a world of feeding schedules and nap times and a love so fierce it physically ached. And he was an observer, a tourist in our new life, who found the local customs distasteful. His gym time became his sanctuary. It stretched from 1 hour to 2, then 3. He started talking about his new fitness trainer, a woman named Sloane. The name dripped from his lips with an admiration he no longer reserved for me. Sloane said this, Sloane recommended that. Sloane was helping him reach his peak physical potential. Sloane understood the importance of discipline. I tried to talk to him one evening, after I'd finally managed to get Lily to sleep. I found him in the kitchen meticulously blending a protein shake. The whir of the machine felt aggressive in the quiet house. "Mark, we need to talk." I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "I feel like you're not even here anymore. I need you. Lily needs you." He didn't turn off the blender. He just raised his voice to be heard over it. "I'm providing, aren't I? I'm working. I'm trying to stay sane, Alara." This, he gestured vaguely around the room. At the baby monitor on the counter. At the sterilized bottles in the drying rack. "It's a lot. I need an outlet." "The gym is your outlet?" "For hours every day." The question was laced with a suspicion that tasted like bile in my mouth. "What about us? What about this family being your focus?" He finally switched off the blender and poured the thick, green sludge into a shaker bottle. He looked at me, his expression cold and impatient. "Frankly, Alara, you've let yourself go. It's not attractive. It's not inspiring. Sloane says that your body is a reflection of your mindset." And right now, he trailed off, taking a long gulp of his shake, letting the implication hang in the air. Sloane. The name was a venomous dart. A woman I'd never met was diagnosing my life, her words filtering through my husband's mouth to poison our home. That night, a dark curiosity took root in my exhausted mind. While Mark was in the shower, I took his phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type in the passcode our anniversary, the irony of which was not lost on me. And there it was. Not hidden, not even particularly discreet. A thread of messages with Sloane F. Her profile picture was a selfie taken in a mirror. Her body a symphony of taut muscle and sculpted lines. She was wearing a sports bra and leggings that highlighted a stomach that was flat and hard as a paving stone. She was everything I wasn't. The messages were a logbook of my failure in his eyes. "Mark, long day. The baby was crying all night. I'm so drained. Sloane F., you need to get away from that negative energy. Your workout tomorrow will be intense. We'll sweat it all out. Can't wait to see you. Mark." Alara's just so different now. It's like all she cares about is the baby. "Sloane F. You deserve someone who cares about you, Mark. Someone who matches your ambition and your drive." And then the one that broke me. It was a picture he'd sent her. A picture of me asleep on the couch, my mouth slightly open, Lily sleeping on my chest. I looked ragged, spent, and utterly unguarded. Beneath it, his caption. "See what I have to come home to?" Sloane's reply was a single devastating sentence. "You deserve a goddess, not a ghost." I placed the phone back on the nightstand, my movements stiff and robotic. I walked into the bathroom and looked at my reflection in the mirror. The fluorescent light was unforgiving. I saw the dark circles under my eyes, the softness of my belly, the stretch marks that mapped the journey of my pregnancy like faint, silvery rivers on my skin. I saw the ghost he saw. The horrible thing he saw. For a long silent moment I believed him. I believed them both. The shame was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. The end came a week later. It was anticlimactic, almost procedural. He packed a bag while I fed Lily in the nursery, the gentle rocking of the glider chair the only sound between us. "I'm going to stay at a friend's for a while," he said from the doorway, not meeting my eyes. "Sloane's?" I asked, my voice flat. He had the decency to flinch. I just need some space, Alara. To think. There's nothing to think about, Mark, I said, looking down at the top of my daughter's head. You made your decision in that hospital room. Everything since then has just been paperwork. He left. The click of the front door shutting was the loudest sound I had ever heard. And then silence. A profound, terrifying silence broken only by the soft, contented sighs of my sleeping child. The house felt enormous, empty. For weeks I drifted through it. A ghost in my own life, just as he'd said. I cared for Lily with a fierce automatic love, but a part of me was hollowed out. I'd look in the mirror and hear his voice, horrible. I'd see a picture of a fit, happy woman on social media and hear Sloane's judgment. A ghost. The turning point wasn't a dramatic bolt of lightning. It was a quiet, mundane moment, about 3 months after he'd left. I was on the floor playing with Lily. She had just learned to roll over, and she was giggling a pure bubbling sound that was the only real joy in my life. I rolled onto my back to mimic her, and as I did, I felt the soft, unfamiliar flesh of my own stomach. I felt weak. Not just sad or heartbroken, but physically weak. I imagined a future where Lily was 5, and I couldn't keep up with her on the playground. A future where she was 10, and I was still the sad, tired ghost her father had left behind. And then I thought of Sloane. I pictured her in her temple of fitness with my husband at her side. I pictured their smug, sculpted perfection. For the first time, the grief and shame that had been choking me for months began to burn. It wasn't a wildfire of rage, not yet. It was a single hot ember, glowing in the darkness of my hollowed-out heart. An idea so audacious and terrifying it made me catch my breath began to form. It wasn't about getting Mark back. I knew with a certainty that was as solid as bone that I never wanted him back. It was about something else. It was about reclaiming the narrative. They had written me off as a casualty of motherhood, a ghost in my own home. My revenge wouldn't be loud or confrontational. It would be quiet, methodical, and total. I would not just rebuild myself. I would do it in their space. I would walk into their world, the world that had been built on my exclusion, and I would make it my own. The next day I looked up the gym. Ascend Fitness. The name itself felt like a challenge. Their website was a slick montage of gleaming steel, beautiful people, and inspirational quotes. And there on the Our Trainers page was her picture. Sloane. Smiling, confident, her arms crossed over a chest that was a testament to her discipline. Her bio was full of words like empowerment, transformation, and unlocking potential. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. My finger hovered over the Join Now button. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every insecurity I had screamed at me to close the browser. You don't belong there. They will laugh at you. You are horrible. I looked over at Lily, sleeping soundly in her bassinet. My daughter. My reason. I took a deep breath and I clicked the button. I was going to walk into the lion's den. But I wasn't going in as prey. I was going in as a hunter in training. My battlefield would be their sanctuary. My weapon would be my own body, the very thing they had despised. And my victory would be silent, indisputable, and absolute. The ghost was about to learn how to haunt. Walking into Ascend Fitness for the first time felt like stepping onto an alien planet. The air was thick with the smell of rubber, sweat, and a faint citrusy cleaning solution. The rhythmic thud of weights hitting the floor and the electronic whir of treadmills created a soundscape of intimidating energy. I clutched the strap of my borrowed gym bag, an old duffel I'd found in the back of the closet, and felt a wave of nausea. I was wearing baggy sweatpants and an old, oversized t-shirt from a college charity run. Everyone else seemed to be clad in sleek, second-skin fabrics that showcased muscles I didn't know existed. They moved with a purpose and confidence that felt a million miles away from my own hesitant, shuffling steps. My initial tour was with a perky young woman who pointed out the cardio theater, the weight machines, the free weight area, testosterone-heavy corner where men grunted and stared at their own reflections, and the studio where classes like yoga and power pulse were held. My eyes scanned the floor constantly, searching for them. For Mark. For Sloane. A part of me prayed I would see them just to get it over with. Another part prayed I wouldn't, that I could remain anonymous in this sea of physical perfection just a little longer. I didn't see them that day. I made my way to a treadmill tucked away in a corner, hoping to be invisible. I put in my headphones, but I didn't play any music. I just wanted to dull the cacophony around me. As I started to walk, then jog, my reflection in the dark screen of the machine moved with me. I saw the ghost. Tired eyes, pale skin, a body that felt unfamiliar and soft. Mark's words echoed with every clumsy footfall. Horrible, horrible, horrible. I lasted 15 minutes before the shame and exhaustion drove me back to the locker room, where I sat in a cubicle and cried, my face buried in a towel that smelled of someone else's detergent. Quitting would have been the easy, logical thing to do. Every instinct screamed at me to cancel the membership and retreat to the safety of my home. But then I would go home to Lily. I'd lift her out of her crib, my arms aching, my back protesting, and I would see the reason I had to go back. I couldn't let her father's shallow cruelty define my strength. I couldn't let my legacy to her be one of defeat. So I went back. The next day and the day after that. My first few weeks were a catalog of quiet humiliations. I didn't know how to use the machines properly. I'd watch other people from a distance trying to mimic their movements, feeling like an imposter. I once tried to adjust the weight on a leg press machine and sent the entire stack crashing down with a sound that made half the gym turn and stare. The heat that flooded my face was scorching. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I avoided the free weights. I avoided the group classes. I existed in a small safe circuit of treadmills and stationary bikes. And I watched. I was a student of my environment. I saw Sloane several times. She moved through the gym like a queen in her court. She was always smiling, her voice bright and encouraging as she coached her clients, mostly men, through their workouts. I saw her correct their form with a light touch on the arm, a guiding hand on the back. It was intimate and professional all at once. I saw the way they looked at her, with the mixture of admiration and desire. And then one Tuesday evening I saw Mark. He was with her, of course. He was laughing, his head thrown back. He looked happy. He was leaner, more defined than I'd ever seen him. He lifted a heavy barbell from a rack, Sloane spotting him, her voice a low murmur in his ear. They were a team, a perfect sculpted team. They moved in sync, their bodies a testament to their shared passion. I was on the elliptical, tucked away in my usual corner. I froze, my legs ceasing their circular motion. I watched them for a full 10 minutes, a cold, clear-eyed observer. I saw him finish his set, panting, and she handed him a water bottle with a proud smile. He leaned in and kissed her, a quick, casual peck on the lips, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. The ember of anger that had been glowing for months finally caught flame. But it wasn't a destructive fire. It was a forge. The hurt, the humiliation, the grief, it all began to burn away, leaving behind something hard and pure and focused. Steel. I realized my current approach was wrong. Hiding in the corner on the cardio machines was an act of fear. It was survival, not strategy. To win this silent war, I had to stop being a ghost. I had to become a presence. I had to learn the language of this place, the language of strength. And for that I needed a guide. Not Sloane, the queen of this domain, but someone else. My search led me to Arthur. He was one of the gym's other trainers. A man who couldn't have been more different from Sloane. He was probably in his late 50s, with a kind, weathered face, a bald head, and arms as thick as tree trunks. He didn't coach the preening peacocks or the fitness models. His clients were a motley crew. A middle-aged woman recovering from a knee surgery, a shy, overweight teenager, a man who looked to be in his 70s and just wanted to maintain his mobility. Arthur wasn't about aesthetics. He was about function. He radiated a quiet, steady competence that was the antithesis of Sloane's flashy charisma. It took me another week to work up the courage to approach him. I found him re-racking some weight someone had carelessly left on the floor. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. He turned, and his eyes weren't judgmental. They were just observant. "Can I help you?" I'd like to book a session," I stammered, feeling my cheeks grow warm. "With you?" He looked me over, not in the appraising way Mark had, but with a professional diagnostic eye. He saw the baggy clothes, the nervous posture, the exhaustion that still clung to me. "All right," he said simply. "What are your goals?" I had rehearsed this. I was supposed to say something vague about getting in shape or losing the baby weight. But looking into his calm, patient face, the truth came out in a raw, honest rush. "I want to be strong," I said, the words surprising me with their intensity. "I don't just want to be thin. I want to be able to lift heavy things. I want to feel powerful in my own skin. I want to look in the mirror and see someone capable, not a ghost." He didn't smile, but a flicker of something respect, perhaps, passed through his eyes. He nodded slowly. "Strength is a good goal. It's an honest goal. Everything else is just a side effect. My name is Arthur. We can start tomorrow." That first session with Arthur was one of the hardest things I have ever done. He didn't put me on a treadmill. He took me straight to the free weight area, the corner of the gym I had avoided like a plague. He started with the basics: the squat, the deadlift, the overhead press. He didn't use a bar, just a lightweight PVC pipe. He spent an entire hour teaching me the form, the mechanics of the movements. "Forget the weight," he said, his voice a low rumble. "The weight is irrelevant right now. Your body is the only thing that matters. You need to teach it how to move correctly. This is about building a foundation. You can't build a strong house on sand." He was a meticulous teacher. He corrected the angle of my back, the position of my feet, the way I held my breath. He was patient and unrelenting. My muscles, unused to such specific and controlled movements, screamed in protest. Sweat poured down my face. I trembled. I felt weak and clumsy, but for the first time I felt purposeful. I wasn't just mindlessly moving to burn calories. I was learning a skill. I was building. At the end of the hour I was utterly spent. "That was incredibly hard," I panted, leaning against a rack for support. "It's supposed to be," he said, handing me a water bottle. "Strength isn't given. It's forged through pressure and resistance. You did well today." Those 4 words, "You did well today," were like a balm on my wounded spirit. No one had said anything like that to me in so long. It was simple, honest praise earned through effort. It was worth more than any empty flattery Mark had ever given me. I trained with Arthur 3 times a week. The progress was agonizingly slow at first. I was sore all the time. There were days I could barely lift my arms to wash my hair. There were days I wanted to weep with frustration when I couldn't add even a single pound to the bar. Mark and Sloan were a constant presence in the gym. I learned to block them out. When I saw them laughing together by the cable machines, I didn't let the anger distract me. Channeled it. I used it. It became fuel. Every smug glance from her, every time he looked right through me as if I were a stranger, I would add another rep to my set. I would hold the plank for 10 seconds longer. Their disdain became my motivation. Arthur was my anchor. He taught me about more than just lifting. He taught me about nutrition, not as a diet but as fuel for performance. He taught me about the importance of rest and recovery. He taught me about the mental game. "The heaviest thing you'll ever lift isn't in this gym," he told me one day, as I struggled with a new personal record on my squat. "It's in your head. It's the voice that tells you you can't. Your job is to make your will stronger than that voice." Months bled into one another. My body began to change. The softness that had haunted me began to give way to definition. First it was subtle. The curve of a bicep. The faint outline of muscle on my back. The way my jeans fit differently. Then it became more noticeable. I could see the shape of my quadriceps, the firmness in my shoulders. The stretch marks on my stomach were still there, silvery and pale, but now they were set against a landscape of firm, strong muscle. They were no longer signs of ruin. They were battle scars, part of my story. But the most profound change was internal. The ghost was fading. In her place was a woman who could deadlift her own body weight. A woman who could walk through the gym with her head held high, her gaze straight ahead. A woman who found a deep meditative peace in the simple, brutal honesty of lifting something heavy and putting it back down. My strength wasn't just physical. It was a quiet, unshakable confidence that radiated from my very core. I no longer needed to hide in the corner. The gym had become my territory too. I still saw Mark and Sloane. They saw me too. I could feel their eyes on me sometimes. I'd catch their reflection in the mirror. Their expressions had changed. The casual indifference was gone. Now there was a flicker of something else. Confusion. Annoyance. In Sloane's eyes, I sometimes saw a flash of professional rivalry, a look that said, "Who is this woman and where did she come from?" They didn't know that they had created me. They had provided the pressure and the resistance. And like Arthur said, I was forging myself in it. One afternoon, about 10 months into my journey, Arthur approached me after our session. He was holding a flyer. "The gym is running its annual transformation challenge," he said, handing it to me. "They're looking for a member to be the face of their new campaign for the upcoming year. New billboards, social media, the whole thing. It's about more than just a physical before and after. They want a story. I think you should enter." I looked at the flyer. The headline read, "Become the face of Ascend. What's your story?" My heart started to pound. This was it. The final act. The checkmate in a game they didn't even know we were playing. "I don't know, Arthur," I said, my old insecurities whispering at the edges of my newfound confidence. "Ilara," he said, his voice firm but kind. "Look around. You are the strongest person in this gym. And I'm not talking about the weight on the bar. Your story is the most powerful one here. It's time you told it." That night, after I put Lily to bed, I sat down at my laptop. I didn't write a story of bitterness or revenge. I didn't even mention Mark or Sloane by name. I wrote a story about a new mother who lost her sense of self in the beautiful, chaotic aftermath of childbirth. I wrote about feeling weak, invisible, and disconnected from her own body. I wrote about walking into a gym terrified and broken, and finding a different kind of strength, not the strength to be beautiful for someone else, but the strength to carry her own life, to lift her own child, to be the powerful, unshakable foundation of her own world. I wrote about how the stretch marks on her belly were a map of her greatest creation, and the calluses on her hands were a testament to her recreation. I ended it with a simple line. "I didn't come here to shrink myself. I came here to grow." I attached 2 photos. The before picture was the one Mark had sent to Sloane. The one of me, asleep and vulnerable on the couch, Lily on my chest. I had found it on his old cloud account. It was a picture taken in mockery, but I was reclaiming it. It was a picture of a mother's exhaustion and pure love. The after picture was one Arthur had taken of me last week. I was in the middle of a deadlift, my back straight, my face a mask of intense focus and effort, every muscle in my body engaged. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't posing. I was just strong. I hit send, and then I waited. The email came 2 weeks later. It was from the gym's owner, a woman named Ms. Davenport. She wanted to meet with me. My stomach was aflutter with nerves as I sat in her sleek, glass-walled office overlooking the gym floor. "Ilara," she said, her smile warm and genuine, "I've read every single submission we received. Over 100 of them. Yours was different. It gave me chills." She slid my essay across the desk towards me. "This isn't just about weight loss. This is a story about resilience, about what strength truly means. It's authentic. It's powerful. It's exactly the message I want to send fitness to embody." She leaned forward, her eyes bright. The panel was unanimous. "We want you to be the face of our new campaign. The face of Ascend." I felt a wave of dizziness. It was happening. It was real. "There's just one thing," she said, her expression turning serious. "I need to ask. Your before photo. It's quite personal. Are you absolutely certain you're comfortable with us using it? It will be everywhere." I looked at the photo of me and my sleeping baby, the ghost, the horrible thing. I felt a surge of protectiveness for the woman in that picture, for her exhaustion and her unconditional love. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I am. That woman deserves to be seen. Her journey is the whole point." Ms. Davenport smiled, a wide, brilliant smile. "Excellent. Welcome aboard, Alara. We start shooting next week. The day the campaign launched, a year to the week after Mark had walked out, was a strange, surreal dream. I had known it was coming, but the reality of it was still a shock. My friend, who was babysitting Lily, sent me a photo of the new billboard on the highway. It was enormous. On one side was the before picture of me and Lily, soft and intimate. On the other was the after picture, the powerful deadlift. And in the middle, in huge, bold letters, was the line from my essay. I didn't come here to shrink myself. I came here to grow. Underneath my name and the words, the face of Ascend Fitness. I decided to go to the gym that evening. It was my time, my routine. I needed the familiarity of it, the grounding presence of the iron. As I walked in, I saw it. A life-size poster of me was right by the entrance. My face, my story was the first thing everyone saw when they walked in. The receptionist gave me a starstruck smile. People I'd only ever nodded at before came up to congratulate me, to tell me my story had inspired them. It was overwhelming and profoundly moving. I tried to focus on my workout, to lose myself in the familiar rhythm of lift, breathe, release. I was on my last set of squats, the bar heavy on my shoulders, my focus absolute. And then I felt a shift in the atmosphere. A sudden quiet in my corner of the gym. I finished my rep, racked the weight, and took a deep, steadying breath. I looked up at the mirror in front of me. And there they were. Mark and Sloane. They were standing about 20 feet behind me, frozen in place. They were staring at the massive banner that hung on the far wall. A duplicate of the billboard. My face. My body. My story. Sloane's mouth was slightly agape. Her professionally cheerful mask had slipped, revealing an expression of pure, unadulterated disbelief, and something that looked shockingly like jealousy. Her empire had been invaded. Her star client's broken, discarded wife was now the face of her kingdom. She looked from the banner to the life-sized poster, and then to me, standing there in my power, sweat glistening on my skin. Her eyes, for the first time, held a glimmer of defeat. But it was Mark's face that I will never forget. He looked like he had seen a ghost, but not the one he'd left behind. This was a different kind of phantom. He stared at the before picture, the one he had taken in mockery, now displayed for the world as a symbol of love and resilience. His face was a canvas of conflicting emotions. Shock, confusion, and a dawning, sickening understanding of what he had thrown away. He looked at the powerful woman in the after photo, and then he looked at me, at my reflection in the mirror. Our eyes met for a long, silent moment. In his eyes I didn't see anger. I didn't see love or longing. I saw what was, for me, the perfect revenge. I saw regret. A deep, hollow, and profound regret. He had called me horrible, a ghost. He had traded me in for a newer, shinier model. And now the woman he had discarded, the woman whose spirit he had tried to break, was the emblem of the very ideal he was chasing. Her story of strength, born from his cruelty, was plastered on every wall of his sanctuary. He couldn't escape me. I was the ghost that would haunt him forever. Not with sadness, but with success. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. My presence was my statement. My strength was my rebuttal. My success was my final word. I simply picked up my water bottle, turned my back on them both, and walked away, leaving them standing there amidst the monuments of my victory. I had not only reclaimed my body and my spirit, I had conquered the very ground on which they had tried to bury me. I had become the face of their gym, and in doing so I had finally truly become the master of my own life. That was a year ago. I am no longer the face of Ascend, my contract ended, but the impact remains. I took the confidence and discipline I forged in that gym and built a new life. I'm now a certified pre- and postnatal fitness specialist, and I run my own online community for new mothers who, like me, are trying to find their strength again. My revenge wasn't just about Mark or Sloane. It was about proving to myself that my worth was never, ever tied to someone else's opinion of me. My worth is in the weight I can lift, both in the gym and in my life. It's in the laughter of my daughter, who sees her mother as a strong, happy, and capable woman. And so I want to ask you, the listeners of her revenge arc, have you ever had a moment where someone's words tried to define you, to put you in a box? How did you break free? What did you build in its place? Share your stories in the comments below. Your journey could be the inspiration someone else needs to hear tonight. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like, sharing it with someone who might need it, and subscribing to the channel for more stories of resilience and reclamation. Until next time, be strong and be your own hero.